Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, gratefully covering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means share it to anybody you think might get something out of it. Other than that, happy Friday, everybody, guys. Oh, do I love Fridays? It's funny, Fridays every always been like the big day. 30 years ago when I had a social life, it was Friday was payday and go out drinking and tearing it up, and I'd be miserable Saturday, even though I usually had to work. It's not the case today. I love Friday because, and it's not because it's payday. I run a business. I collect checks all week long. Money just comes every day. I think I got one check today, but it was nothing committed. So it's not about money. I love Fridays because it's my home group. It's actually like almost, it's definitely by far my lightest day of the week. I love my recovery group so much that when I found this meeting, and even though it's 12 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, I love this meeting so much that I made a commitment to basically give up one day a week. Now, I mean, I could technically work all day and run there and do it, but now I've been offered the position to chair the meeting. I've been doing that for quite a while now, 4 or 5 months, and I love it. Like, it means the absolute world to me. So I make a point of doing a couple. I'll run around, do some small jobs in the morning. I get there basically. I leave at like 10:30 to go to my meeting, to be there by 11:30, to make sure I'm just there a little bit early, so nobody's sitting outside in the cold by themselves. I'll go there to greet people, get in, get set up, meet, greet everybody as they come in, and then I stick around after the meeting, so I'm the last person leaving. So I leave there like 1:30. And then doing that, the last thing I want to do is go start a job Friday afternoon. So I try to basically take the afternoon off, but inevitably there's always either small calls that come in or there's just running around paperwork. But it's nice. It gives me a break from actually out producing labor. And never mind all that. That's not none of that. The point. The point is, I love the meeting so much that I'm willing to forego half a day's pay, and which is a lot of money these days, because it's more important that I go to my meeting, and I could go to other meetings, but this is my home group. I felt welcomed in the moment I got there. The first time, yeah, I literally remember the day I walked in the first day, raised my hand, introduced myself, spoke my concerns, got my 24-hour chip, and these people were cheering me on and supporting me from day one. People made it a point to get to know me, welcome me in every week, and I've gotten to know these people, and it was a smaller group today, which it's nice both ways. There's pros and cons to both. When it's a more intimate atmosphere, more people get to speak, and people just speaking their truth. I got to speak today. Other people talking about like serious stuff that they've been through, and we all support each other. And guys, like literally, that is my family. I have come to love these people, the people that have been there from day one, and the new people coming in. There was a guy visiting from Ohio that happened to find the meeting today. He was a hot shit, and like him and I just kind of bonded on some of our similar history and similar recovery as well. Guys, there is so much joy and so much beauty and just so much support in a good meeting, in a good recovery group. And if you go to one and you don't like it, try another. Like, you'll find your tribe, and that's the beauty of it, guys. I've found my tribe, and it's just one more of God's promises being fulfilled. I remember hearing that early on, in meditation, that and I didn't see that, because I'm like, these people are so different. Because again, when we're coming out of addiction in an early recovery, we often feel so isolated, so excluded. We always think that things don't apply to us. It's not, they're not like me, and you don't think you're ever gonna fit in, or at least that's how I felt, and I'd always felt this way. I talked about it recently in a video. I felt alone with family, with friends, with loved ones at work, with people that knew me, because nobody truly knew me. I didn't know me because I hadn't taken the time to figure out who I was. I just was reacting to situations I caused, and then living up to a persona that other people labeled me as. And guys, it's not a way to live a life, and it's why I was in despair and then medicating myself for so long. Going there and just allowing my true personality to come out, and then come to find out I love who I am today. I love the actions I take today, which then in turn have a lot to do with who I get to be. I get to let go of all that bullshit and just find the best version of me, because that's what I seek every day. I try to be, and again, every one of us can. That's the point of recovery, guys. You get in recovery to rebuild your life. Like, we can, anybody could have, you can abstain, and then, I shouldn't say that because it's almost impossible to stay off drugs if you're an addict like I am, unless you make some serious changes. And in order to make those changes, I had to stop and figure a lot of shit out. What was real, what wasn't, what was fake, what was lies, what mattered, what didn't. And that was so overwhelming to me. I could not do it on my own. So thankfully, I had a start. I started in the right direction. My higher power, whom I choose to call God. I found the beauty of prayer. I found the beauty of surrender, and I started seeing. But then, even in rehab, it was very isolating. I didn't bond with anybody. I got along with a few people in rehab, but I hadn't really bonded with anybody. And then I go home and I find my recovery group, and that was the missing piece of the puzzle. And I didn't know it then, but I've come to find it now, and it's why I'm getting more involved with more meetings and more in recovery. And now I'm working with my sponsor. I'm so happy. I've got the best sponsor, and that's how you should feel, guys. Don't rush. Don't settle. Find your tribe. Find your place. And it lights me up going to my meeting on Friday. I walk out of there just happy and feel like I've done good. Got to know people, watching other people celebrate their wins and start to get their life back together is absolutely beautiful. Chairing position, sometimes I've got to keep a little order, and I try to do so. So somebody was speaking at the end of the meeting, and there was like, we have 4 minutes to speak, and she had her 4 minutes, and she was talking about an important topic. There was only a couple minutes left, not really enough for another speaker, so I just let her go on. But then she started getting into it, and then the meeting was over. So I had to stop her. And I went up and gave her a big hug afterwards. I'm like, hey, I hope I didn't offend you, And she said, oh my God, Pat. She goes, you did it in the most kindest, gentlest way. I respect myself for that, guys, because I care enough to do that. This is what we get in recovery. We get the tools to do the hard things that would normally have made us feel uncomfortable, and I'd be all anxiety. Is she gonna hate me? No, people know we're here for recovery. There are rules. We follow the program. We have a time limit. And we have to not really enforce it, but we got to remind people of it and control the situation in a kind, loving, gentle way. And I can do that today, and I love that, guys. So this has been a long intro. I'm sorry. The reading today is rationalizing away our recovery, and you don't want to do this, guys. And in addiction, every one of us could rationalize every ridiculous thing in the world, right? If you find yourself fighting your program, seriously, guys, the program is laid out like it is. Follow it, right? Anyway, don't rationalize away your program. Rationalizing away our recovery. As a result of the 12 steps, I'm not able to hold on to old ways of deceiving myself. We all rationalize. Sometimes we know we are rationalizing, admit we are rationalizing, and yet continue to behave according to our rationalizations. Recovery can be very painful when we decide that for one reason or another, the simple principles of the program do not apply to us. Excuse me, I got an indigestion. With the help of a sponsor and the fellowship in recovery, we can begin to take a look at the excuses we use for our behavior. Do we find that some principles just don't apply to us? Do we believe that we know more than everybody else in recovery, even those who have been clean for many, many years? Well, what makes us so special? There is no doubt we can successfully rationalize our way through a part of our recovery, but eventually we must squarely face the truth and start acting accordingly. The principles in the 12 steps guide us to a new life in recovery. There is little room for rationalization there. Affirmation is just for today. I cannot work the steps and also continue deceiving myself. I will examine my thinking for rationalization. I will examine my thinking for rationalizations. I will reveal them to my sponsor and be rid of them. Guys, that is the whole thing. That's a great reading. When I saw this, I'm like, God, I feel like that's what I was doing in my active addiction. I could rationalize anything, guys. I had accepted homelessness. I had accepted just drastic failures of health. I had accepted being thrown in prison over and over and over again, and I could rationalize it. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't due to my behaviors. No wonder. It boggles my mind that I could lie to myself and deceive myself and then believe it, and then carry on like that. But I have to let that go. That was then. And the only reason I even bring it up, because I use that as a benchmark to say, well, that's where I was, this is where I'm at, I like this much better. So I work very hard to maintain what I have going on over here. And it's funny, I shouldn't say I work very hard. I do a lot of work in that area. It's not hard. It's not always easy, but it's not necessarily hard. Hard is going out there and trying to hustle and manipulate and burn your life to the ground and you get up and do it over and over every day. Addiction's hard. Recovery is not necessarily easy, mostly because of the wreckage of addiction. Once you get past that, guys, recovery gives you the tools to live a new life. Life is not easy, but being in recovery doesn't make it harder once you get some stabilization. And the more you put into your program, the more you're going to get out of it. But none of this is going to happen if you're deceiving yourself. And I know this firsthand because I tried. I tried every which way and then some, and then I invented some more. But at the end of the day, my step one was never proper. I was deceiving myself about who I was, what my history was, what my problems were, what everything in my life was, and therefore I couldn't build a recovery program. I see today how these things all go hand in hand, and you've got to start step one. You got to start at the beginning. Like, we can't do anything in recovery if we don't admit that we have a problem with drugs, because then what are you doing? You know, what are we here for, right? If you don't have a problem, why are you coming for a meeting? Are you lonely? Okay, whatever. You're still welcome. You know, we have to admit we're a problem, right? Then we've got to, once we admit we have that problem, we have to understand, well, we can't do it on our own or we wouldn't be here. Again, I tried for years to get off of drugs, and every time I ended up right back on drugs, deeper, worse, harder. I didn't have the power, right? So I invited a power that is sufficient, and never mind sufficient, is never ending and overwhelming and unfathomable power, God, my higher power, into my life. And once you invite him in, literally, guys, we have free will. And again, this is my belief. Pick it apart all you want. I was able to do what I want because I was running my free will and I was failing accordingly, guys. But I see the differences today, and really the big difference is I've surrendered, and then suddenly I do basically the same, more or less, work every day, and yet I'm thriving and I'm successful, and doors of opportunity are open left and right. What's the difference? I've surrendered and become aligned with a higher power. I've started to look at my actions and change my behaviors, look at my thought patterns, and then correct them. And it's funny, like, I sometimes forget. We all have these built-in forgetters, and I forget how much intentional work I did in the early days because people see me happy and driving. I'm like, yeah, it's easy. I just live my life. And I'm like, well, no, I did have to take some pretty big leaps of faith in the beginning. I cut out my entire life. I said no when it was really tough. I quit my job when I was deeply in debt and didn't have $20 to my name. But that's what God was telling me to do by my intuition, by my feelings. This felt good. This feels bad. This feels bad. This feels good. Let's go with good. I don't know. That's scary. It's unknown. Yeah, but I know this sucks. Well, then let's go with scary and unknown and trust that God's going to provide for me if I do good. And that's it. And not really that's it, but that's the basis that I went with. And there's a lot of individual steps that came with that. But again, every day that I still do the same thing every day. I get up, drop my knees, I pray, and you know what? I'm always very cautious about putting this out there, but you know what? I think it's important. I should share upon it. I read the book Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmett Fox, and it breaks down the Psalms of the Bible are all treatments or prayers. And I came up with basically a 14-page spread of psalms and treatments that I've turned into my personal prayers, and they're basically all asking, thanking God for the love that He's shown me, and just asking for me to be a better person, teaching me to be humble, teaching me the beauty of surrender. Let me be aware of your will. Give me the power to carry it out. Let me walk in your light, like and all these different things. But not only does it align me with my higher power and shows God reference and shows that I'm paying attention and then I'm going out and taking good action, but it's also programming my brain. This is what I want to do all day. And by repeating this day in and day out, minimum of twice a day for the last, 14 months tomorrow will be 14 months of continuous sobriety for me, by far the longest I've ever had in my adult life. I've managed to change my ways of thinking. I don't want to say change the person I am, but I was able to find the person I am. And again, something else I asked for in prayer. God, let me help me to be the person you called me to be, the person I'm supposed to be. I'm able to let go of all my bullshit baggage, all of that. And I focus on, again, not to perfection, guys. I make mistakes. I had a situation this morning where well, not really a coworker, I work myself, but somebody that works for one of my customers that I end up working alongside, or we can have supposed to communicate a lot. He was just, he doesn't have, how do I want to put this? He can be abrasive. We'll put it at that. And out of nowhere, he's having a bad day, and he decides that, like he did in the old days when I was a junkie, call me up and try to put something he did on my shoulders. And I'm like, absolutely not. And it was literally over a car parked in the driveway that he wanted his worker to park in. And I'm like, dude, I reached out and asked the tenant to not have her car there after 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, what more do you want me to do? I can't enforce it. Go knock on her door. And he, instead of doing that, he decided to scream at me over the phone, vent his frustration on me. And I could have rose above, I could have taken the stride, but he pissed me off, and I saw a pattern there, and I was legit right to be angry. So I snapped. And probably the first time I've snapped in recovery. And guys, I'm not the push-around junkie I used to be. I'm a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot clear-headed, and I have a lot more responsibility, and I'm the one that writes his checks now. Literally, I write his paychecks. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? So I put him in his place. I snapped. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what kind of a bad day you had. And I'm saying it to you. I was screaming it on the phone. And I put him in his place, and I hung up on him. And I'm like, but then I walked 10 feet, and I just burst out laughing. I'm like, oh, that actually felt really good. I probably shouldn't have enjoyed, unloading and snapping on that. But at the same time, it got the point across. Later in the day, he found me, sought me out, and apologized. Hey, I was just having a bad day. Just ignore me when I'm being a dink. Literally word for word. Because he knows, he was wrong. And I forgave him. No hard feelings. I'm not mad at him. I know who he is. He's not a bad kid. It's just he doesn't always handle things well. But he needed to be reminded. And maybe, yes, in true Christ fashion, I could have tried to explain. I could have been better. I snapped it, probably unnecessarily. But it felt good. And I put him in his place, and I made my point. So there's a fine dance to everything. And again, not perfection, but there's good points and there's bad points. I'm proud of myself for doing it, and I'm ashamed of myself for doing it. Right? But it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Because I didn't use drugs. I didn't hurt somebody. I didn't drive to the job site and throw them out a second-story window like I wanted to. Progress. I'm doing okay. I'm doing really well, actually. And if I look back and say, wow, that's the first person I've really yelled at in 14 months, with all that I've been through, all that I've been doing, I think I've done a pretty good job of retraining my brain, because I see people screaming at each other all the time. I don't have to feed into that today. I get to rise above, because that is my natural disposition. God has given me the ability to handle stress better than most, the ability to work harder and faster than most. So I'm out here marketing that, and I'm showing the world what recovery can look like if you work a good program, because God gave me the talent and the skill and the ability to handle it. So why not? And I do this to pave the path and to encourage others and show other people that when they think it's hard, they think they can't, look at my history. If I can do it, you can too. But you gotta do the work. And here's the thing, guys. Back to rationalizing. If you're going to a meeting, and I used to be this person, when you're hearing people speak and following the steps and this and that, if you're picking it apart, you're going to fail. You're not going to improve the program. There's been, this has been out here for 100 years, getting in, and again, you might have a good idea, don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling anybody, but if you're sitting there picking apart and finding a loophole in every little part of the program, you're going to fail. Not everything has to be perfectly, specifically tailored or applied perfectly. Take what resonates, leave the rest behind. Work your program to the best of your ability. Admit your wrongs. Look honestly. If you honestly in any way, shape, or form think that somehow you're exempt from any one of these things, look closer. Look again. Guys, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We'll see you again.